Welcome to the Ice Guys, presented by National Hockey Now. It is Tuesday, October 18th. Ian Cameron, Alex B. Smith with you, ready to break down the Tuesday NHL card. Scheduled to have our guest today, Brian Lee, joining us. Hoping that is still the case, but we'll get the show going right now regardless. But looking forward to this Tuesday card. We've got 8 games on tap. We had a surprising amount of games yesterday for a Monday, 9 games. So we'll take a look back first at what we saw last night. A couple of huge upsets. I guess that was the big headline from what we saw on Monday night. If you back the Arizona Coyotes and the Montreal Canadiens, you certainly have a much bigger bankroll to work with today. Terrific performances in upset victories by both teams. How about the Montreal Canadiens rallying from a deficit yesterday against the Pittsburgh Penguins, falling behind 2-0 in that game, but they come back and get the 3-2 victory over the Pittsburgh Penguins. Sam Montembeault, when that game was 2-0, had to make some big saves. He did. They got a couple big defensive stands. Montreal got some penalties killed as well that kept them in the game. And then that offense started to take over. And down the stretch, they got the goals they needed. Caulfield is able to tie it late in the third period, force overtime. And then, of course, Kirby Dach on the power play gets his first as a Montreal Canadian in overtime, a 3-2 win and a plus 220 underdog ticket yesterday with the Montreal Canadiens cashes in, which was great to see. And of course, with the Arizona Coyotes, we talked about it. I obviously had Toronto first period puck line, just going back to that experiment that we've been rolling with, and that's take the opponent in the first period on the puck line against Arizona. That obviously didn't work, but I also said, it's probably worth it to take at least the plus 2.5 in puck line on Arizona, because it just felt like a game that Toronto wasn't going to win easily. And sure enough, not only did they not win it easily, they didn't win it at all. Just a terrific performance by Arizona and a horrible one by Toronto. This Leaf team, they did a Leafs last night. That's what they did. The Leafs leafed. That's what they did last night. The Leafs leafed. That's exactly what the fuck they did. And this team's mental acuity is the size of a raisin. It's the size of a peanut. Their mental toughness is the size of a little pea. That's it. That's what this team is right now, because they actually had a great first period, especially the first 10 minutes. They come out in that game the way you want to start the game against a team that you feel you're superior against. They swarmed the Arizona net, had a bunch of offensive zone time. They carried the play. They had chances, but unfortunately, they were missing the net a lot. They were passing the puck a lot, but they were buzzing. They were doing a good job, and the puck just wasn't going in during that 10-minute sequence. And then all of a sudden, it's like the Leafs just get into that mindset of, well, we really gave it our all in these first 10 minutes. Puck just didn't go in. Well, there she goes. Let's just mail it in. Let's half-ass it the rest of the night. And that's exactly what happened. The rest of the game, honestly, especially for the rest of the first period and then the second period, the Arizona Coyotes were the better hockey team. They were taking the play to the Leafs. They were carrying the play. They were forcing mistakes out of the Toronto Maple Leafs. And so it got worse from that point on. And then the Leafs, when they're down 2-0 in the third period, then they decide, okay, now we're going to play a little bit because our backs are against the wall. We need to get going. And bang, bing, bang, boom, they get 2 quick goals to tie the game, only to see a failed clearance in the defensive zone by Justin Hall. And I feel bad for that guy. He got into the good books again of Leaf fans with a big goal against Ottawa in the victory on Saturday night, and then he gives it away in the defensive zone, leads to the game-winning goal by Shane Gostisbehere for the 3-2 Arizona win. And then there was that controversial tying goal for Toronto, what was about to be the tying goal that gets taken away by video review. It's a 50-50 call. I don't want to hear the Leaf fans screaming today about, oh, we got screwed. That game, we took a point away from us. No, your team took a point away from you because you didn't come ready and you didn't play for 60 fucking minutes. That's why. All right. That's why you didn't get that 1 point or 2 points. It's because you didn't come to play and you didn't respect your opponent. You disrespected your opponent. Things didn't go your way in the first 10 minutes when you were carrying the play. And then you just said, you know what? We gave it our all there. Tons of chances. Puck didn't go in. It's this kind of night. And sure enough, you paid the price for it. And Arizona now, a shocking stat. that Arizona has picked up at least 1 point in every head-to-head game against the Toronto Maple Leafs. Now, these are some good Toronto teams and some bad Arizona teams over the last 20 years. Since 2002, Arizona has picked up at least 1 point in every head-to-head game against Toronto. How about that? Isn't that something? It just tells you just the plight of the Toronto Maple Leafs. But Alex, we'll start there, and then we'll get to some other things from last night. But obviously the two big upsets and two big dogs, Arizona and Montreal, coming through.
Yeah, and for those who are new to the program and those who are new to sports betting, this is one of the biggest reasons why we talk about avoiding giant favorites and taking shots with big priced underdogs. Like I said, we saw the value on plus 2.5. I doubt we'll get minus $1.10 on plus 2.5 on anybody the rest of the season, and that's saying a lot because Arizona's still a bad team. Make no mistake about it. There's other bad teams in this league like Chicago and San Jose, but the books now are going to learn from this mistake. This is the third biggest underdog in the last 15 plus years to cash outright as a winner. They were as high as plus 500 at a couple of books around puck drop. And even if you waited and jumped in live, there's some people I saw they got 650, 690 because, like I said, the Leafs were dominating the pace of play in the first 10 minutes. They just didn't do anything on the scoreboard. You got Arizona escaping with the 1-0 lead, which, like I said, kiboshes both the first period over and team total or team puck line fade against Arizona. But then, like you said, they just come out lifeless. Toronto finally gets the 2 goals in the third period. Mitch Marner celebrating and blowing a kiss to the crowd, tying the game up as if he had done something major. No, you guys just tied the game up in the third period against one of the worst franchises.
Saw that. I couldn't believe that when I saw that. Grow up, kid. You look like an 8-year-old kid anyway. Right. So it fits that you haven't grown up yet. Yeah, it fits the bill perfectly.
It wasn't even that it was like a great goal. I see if you like it'd be one thing celebrate. You just undressed all 5 defensemen and skated through end to end to make that goal. It was a common goal to tie up a game against a weak opponent. And you're out here celebrating and gloating. And sure enough, what happens? They come back and put 2 more against you, take the win. So a lot of people kind of read into the whole they haven't won in 20 years or haven't beat Arizona in 20 years. It's kind of a skewed stat because if you think about how infrequently these two teams played between 2002 and basically 2015, 2016 with the revamping of the conferences and divisions over time. But still, this is the kind of thing that, when people say, the Leafs, when are they going to break the curse? When are they going to get over the hump? Well, it's shit like this that causes us to go on here and say, I don't think the Leafs have it yet. We don't think the Leafs have it yet because they can't put away these teams. You have to win these teams if you want to be considered a true Stanley Cup contender, a viable playoff team year in and year out. And when you lay these eggs, especially early in the year, we're not talking about a completely beat up team in mid-January. We're talking about the 3rd, 4th game of the season, the first week of the season, and you're losing to a team that you are far more talented than. It's a bad sign. It's a bad stigma. And we called it on the head too. The crowd was completely dead and listless. The spot for goaltending, of course, Karel Vermelka.
Oh, it's like a church at Scotiabank Arena for these weeknight Leaf games against a weak opponent. Guaranteed.
Always. And then the goaltending situation, Shalgren, who, he's still a developing prospect. He's not fully there than NHL caliber goalie. Going up against Karel Vermelka, a guy who, would probably be a backup or a third string option with most teams, but he's the best goaltender the Coyotes have. And he's been playing very well despite not having a whole lot of support from his blue liners in front of him. He's had to make a ton of 10-bell saves once again, facing 40, 45 shots a night. And he could keep you in some games, which is, I think there's a lot of top-tier goalies that may not be able to keep you games facing 40, 45 shots a night. Look at John Gibson, for example. Talk about him in a little bit. But, this is just one of those things where, you have to be leery of big favorites, and you have to sometimes take a good shot with a big-sized dog because these things can happen any given night.
Yeah, it's a tough rule. I'll read the rule, why that goal was overturned. They determined that Morgan Rielly batted the puck with his hand inside the offensive zone before Mitch Marner gained possession and control. According to the rule, a player may bat a puck in the air with his open hand unless, in the opinion of the on-ice officials, he has directed the puck to a teammate or has allowed his team to gain an advantage and subsequently possession and control of the puck is obtained by a player of the team possessing the puck, either directly or deflected off any player or official. So that's the rule. They deemed it was, like I say, it was close, but it's a tough call to go against the Leafs at that time of the game. But at the end of the day, it's a situation where I think it's the call that they ended up having to make. I think so. It's close. It was a close call, but again, I can't listen. I can't, and I know a bunch of Leaf fans. I live an hour west of Toronto, so of all the hockey fans and friends I know, 80 to 90% of them are Leaf fans. A bunch of them are saying we got screwed over. I can't listen to that. All right, you didn't get screwed over. The team screwed themselves over by playing a horseshit hockey game against one of the worst teams in the NHL. That's what screwed them over. The performance of the team on the ice last night for that 60 minutes. And where were the Stars last night? What the hell did Marner and Matthews even? That's the team from your home. He was very quiet last night. But again, disappointing from the Leafs. What else is new? Other games last night, Rangers 6-4 win over Anaheim. Gutsy effort from Anaheim. They kept on pushing even though it was not going their way. And the Rangers got a little sloppy with the lead. I know that will not sit well with Gerard Gallant, but they get a 6-4 win. Boston, how about them? Still undefeated, 5-3 win over Florida. Late scratch was Brandon Montour last night for the Panthers. So they had to play with 5 defensemen. And Boston kind of took advantage of that. Some breakdowns by Florida at times last night. 5-3 win. And Jake DeBrusk, who was we were not sure he was going to play. He did. He ended up scoring 2 goals last night for the Bruins. A nice 5-3 win for them. LA 5-4 over Detroit. What a wild game. Alex, congrats to him with the over there with the Kings and the Red Wings. It got there with ease. Back and forth game. I loved the play we saw from Dylan Larkin for the Detroit Red Wings. That game was going to be over with that empty net. He saves an empty net goal. And then, of course, down the ice, Sundqvist juices, gets the tying goal for the Detroit Red Wings 4-4. And even though they lost in overtime, they don't get a point last night without that effort by Dylan Larkin to save an empty net goal in the last couple minutes of that third period. So incredible effort by the captain. And look, Detroit, you would have said to Derek Lalonde, we're going to get 5 out of 6 points in our first 3 games of the season. I think he would have signed up for that. And even with the loss, and look, you had no Bertuzzi, or a little bit short-handed. Brana was out last night up front. You were still able to do a pretty good job and get what the hell was that?
Oh, sorry. That's probably the noise in the background here.
Okay. I was going to say, we got some work being done. Okay,
it's as if someone's building coffins in the apartment above me, so apologies.
Very disappointing game for Winnipeg, 4-1 loss to Dallas. Look, the Philip Grubauer issues continue in Seattle as well. 5-1. Carolina. How about Carolina giving up 3 goals in the first 3 games combined? That defense is stifling right now, and they're getting good goaltending. A nice 5-1 win for the Canes. Seth Jarvis scores again for the Canes. Good night for Aho and Svechnikov as well. The big guns showed up for Carolina. Colorado adding to the misery of Minnesota, 6-3. A nice win for the Avalanche last night, and Minnesota continues to just flounder defensively. Going to Philip Gustafson, certainly didn't give them that defensive spark they needed. Still struggling with penalty kill, still struggling with obviously defending in their own zone, just giveaways, turnovers, and the like in that 6-3 loss. And the other game last night, and I saved this for last because this was the one that really angered me the most last night, was the Vancouver Canucks. Now, if the only team in the NHL's history to have lost 3 straight games to begin the season when having a 2+ goal lead in a game, that's some bad history. You don't want to be on that side of history. And the Vancouver Canucks are the only team in NHL history to have 3 straight losses in the regular season to begin the year with a 2+ goal lead in the game. And it happened again last night against Washington. And it's the kind of mistakes that you have a 4-2 lead going into the third period. They were playing a great game. They really were. I mean, they were moving the puck well. They were actually playing solid, steady defense. I thought their defensive play was great in the second period. But when you have a fragile team protecting a lead, and obviously that's what they felt, the pressure of trying to protect a lead after what happened against Edmonton and after what happened against Philadelphia, you saw it again last night with this Vancouver Canucks team. And some of the mistakes they made in their defensive zone were inexcusable, were absolutely dreadful. The 4-3 goal wasn't good coverage. It was a breakdown in the zone. Who the hell is watching John Carlson? He has all day to walk in down by the faceoff dot, pick his spot and rip
Yep.
it. Thatcher Demko for the tying goal. Who the fuck's watching that guy? Anybody?
Yep.
Anybody want to put a stick in the lane or something or block a shot? Get in there on John Carlson? Anybody? Apparently not. He got all day to just basically tee it up from the faceoff dot and tie that game. Terrible defense, and that wasn't the end of it. Sheary, what the hell has happened to Lawsome Tossum's game on the blue line for Vancouver? Ekman Larson stunk last year. Terrible season, and he was beaten to the front of the net by Sheary on the 5-4 goal. Just terrible defensive coverage by him. Let him go to the front of the net. And Sheary took the lead and it gave them the lead 5-4. And at that point, obviously, you see the panic, you see the mistakes, you see losing coverage, you see, people get, basically forwards for the Washington Capitals, defensemen being lost in coverage. That is a team that is fragile and mentally weak. And Bruce Boudreau said it after the game. We're waiting for bad things to happen. We expect bad things to happen when we have a lead in these games. And that's exactly the way they're playing defensively right now. And on the Ovechkin goal that put it away on the deflection to make it 6-4, I don't know what Nils Höglander and Elias Pettersson are doing. I don't know what the fuck they were doing there. What were you looking at the sky? Picking your nose? What were you doing? I mean, you're out there on the ice and you're letting one of the great goal scorers of our lifetime, get behind you to deflect that puck in the net at 6-4 to make it 6-4. That's Alex Ovechkin. Maybe look to put your stick in the way or defend the guy or knock him on his can. Do something. Nobody did. I know Pettersson's not a physical player. I don't expect him to do that, but tie the guy's stick up. Do something there. Höglander, same thing. Standing there like a couple of dopes last night. Right there with Ovechkin. Right there. That's number 8. He's only been dominating the NHL for 18 years. You might want to pay attention. My goodness. It's the kind of defensive mistakes that you can't make. And it's the kind of defensive mistakes that a team with no confidence defensively and a team with a fragile psyche makes. That's what happens. And Vancouver did it again to themselves. And if I'm a little angry, you know why. Because it was one of my favorite bets of the night last night. It was my best bet on this show. And I had a nice little best bet streak going. I think I had won 3 or 4 best bets in a row going into last night. I wasn't very thrilled with seeing a 4-2 lead go down the pisser in that third period last night. Not happy at all. So now Vancouver has this players only meeting. We'll see what comes of it tonight when they're back in action on a back-to-back against Columbus. But boy, Alex, what a tough start for Vancouver to be on that side of history. 3 straight regular season losses to begin the year for the first time in history. A team loses 3 straight to begin the season with a 2+ goal lead. That's not the history you want to be any part of.
Absolutely not. And it's just baffling to me to see a team this woefully unprepared at the beginning of the year to play a full 60-minute effort, especially a Bruce Boudreau team. And not just, one he took over, in the middle of last year after a bad start. This is his full camp. This is his full year. This is supposed to be everything under his instruction. And this is something you don't see from his teams, especially in the regular season. Playoffs, whole different story. But you usually see motivated, prepared, and dedicated players night in and night out, and we're not seeing that dedication. Really, if you look at this game with the Caps and the Canucks, it's pretty much like that Spider-Man meme with the 2 Spider-Mans pointing at each other. These both teams look alike. They're both having issues focusing. They're both having issues moving the puck and being in the right spot at the right time. I mean, just look at the goal that was 8 seconds left in the first period, and then the goal given up 8 seconds into the second period. Both chances were where the goaltenders were just completely lost and stuck in a spot where they should have been making a save. Instead, they're just kind of just off in the space or completely out of position. So it's unfathomable that both these teams are playing this way. But I expected a little bit more from Washington. We kind of broke it down and talked about it the last couple of days. Where Washington, they're an older team, they're slower of foot. You give them a little bit more leeway to be a bad team. But this Vancouver team was supposed to make another step up and move up within that Pacific Division and the Western Conference, having a full year of Boudreau under their belt, and they just simply have not been doing that right now. 3 games in a row, blowing 2+ goal leads. That's unfathomable at any point of the year, but especially doing that at the beginning of the season. Like I said, definitely on the wrong side of history there. They've got to correct things tonight against Columbus, or it's just going to get uglier from here. And I'll even talk about a little bit with the Anaheim game you mentioned about with Anaheim and LA. That's another issue where now, I mentioned, I said John Gibson. I thought this is going to be a year he can bounce back and look sharp, but he's looked terrible the last 2 games. And now all of a sudden, Dallas Aikens is coming out saying he's got some kind of lower body issue, which now leads to a humongous question with the Ducks. What do you do with John Gibson? Because, it seemed like, okay, this year, he's probably not going to stick around long term necessarily. Maybe you have a chance to move him and add some more parts because Anaheim's doing a good job of rebuilding for the future. They have a capable backup in Anthony Stolarz, but now he's hurt. Now, does his trade value diminish? Does his just overall game diminish? Is this where he is now? He's now, a more of a mid-tier goalie as opposed to where he was easily with a bad team, one of the best goaltenders in the world a couple of seasons ago. Now, if he's having these issues, and we talk about groin and leg issues all the time, it's just like arm and elbow issues with pitchers in baseball. When they happen and they linger on and on, they start to wear down. They never really quite get better. They always kind of hang there or get worse as time progresses. So that's a really big question mark that the Ducks have. And it's unfortunate because we know their offense is capable of carrying them afloat. They needed the goaltending behind them. And now we're seeing them giving up 7 goals to the Islanders and then 6 to the Rangers. And it's not going to get any easier once they play the teams in their division and in their conference.
Yeah, it is. And we're waiting for it. Like you're saying, you're right. It's been a downward trajectory. And poor Anaheim now, that's 2 games in a row, Alex, just woeful defense and goaltending. And yeah, it's tough to see that for a team that I was singing the praises of coming into this season being better. Apparently we have Roberto Luongo in our chat, retired and found the Ice Guys show. There you go. And throwing shade at one of his former teams. So there you go, Roberto Luongo in our chat here. That's pretty funny stuff. I love it. Good stuff. But yeah, that was terrible. I mean, especially with Ovechkin, that really bothered me. Like I knew they were probably going to lose anyway. They were already down 5-4. So it's not like the 6-4 goal was the be all end all. But that's Alex Ovechkin. And I got to sit there and watch my bet fall apart there and watch Höglander and Pedersen stand there like 2 dopes, 2 totem poles, and just watch Ovechkin just do whatever he wants and not pay and not do anything to, take the puck away from him, put the body on him, put a stick in the way, knock him down. Nobody did anything. It tells you where the Canucks are right now. Oh, and one more thing about that game, and then we'll get to today's card. Another thing that's angering me and frustrating me too is our guest Brian Lee's having computer issues right now, and he's trying to get the StreamYard link open. He's downloading multiple browsers. That's why I'm texting him back and forth. So we'll see if we can fix that with Brian. But frustrating with that. But another thing too, I want to mention about that game, this Evgeny Kuznetsov high stick thing that he did on Burrows, Kyle Burrows, the defenseman for the Canucks. Look, I get it. Maybe he was leaning down. That certainly impacted, where that stick ended up hitting Burrows. I get that. And there's some truth to that. Burrows was leaning down, trying to battle with Kuznetsov for the puck. And then Kuznetsov swings the stick and it hits him in the throat and the neck area. So, yeah, he bent down. And I think maybe you could say, okay, because he bent down, maybe he was aiming for his chest. He bent down. He got the throat, the head, and the neck area instead. Okay, you could say that. Okay. But that doesn't excuse Kuznetsov for swinging the stick like a baseball bat and hitting him with it. If the stick glances, rides up and hits Burrows in the throat and the neck area, okay, I can live with that. But Kuznetsov swinging the stick with his like a baseball bat, hitting Burrows, that's unacceptable. You can't do that. If you have any respect for the safety and the well-being of your fellow human being, even though he's on the other team, you don't swing your stick like that. I didn't know if that was Evgeny Kuznetsov or Aaron Judge on skates. Holy shit. I mean, you can't swing the stick like that, like a baseball bat. And then I got to see he gets 1 game suspension today. Clearly, the league still doesn't get it in terms of player safety. They can talk all they want about how much they care about it and want to protect everybody. Bullshit. It's a facade right now. It is. They don't give 2 shits about player safety. These suspensions are like, picking a winner out of a jar or something. Pick some kind of piece of paper out of a hat, a 50-50 ticket. Let's see who's going to 6 games. Let's pick another one. 2 games. Who the hell knows what it's going to be? There's no consistency. It's different from player to player, game to game, situation to situation. And here we go again. 1 game for a guy swinging the stick like that. I mean, come on.
Yeah, it's absurd. It's like they have a wheel and they just spin it, and wherever it lands, it's however many, it's just games or it's a fine or whatever have you. Like I said, and they always want to take into consideration the style of player. Heaven knows if Tom Wilson was healthy and we saw him swinging the stick with a baseball bat, they'd probably be trying to get criminal charges pressed against him. But because it's Evgeny Kuznetsov, a guy who's not normally physical or malicious in any way, despite having the literal proof of him being maliciously swinging the stick, they still only give him one game. It's unacceptable.
You just can't. That's the part that was bad about it. I get it. Maybe he wouldn't have swung it, but he did. If he was upright and he aimed for the chest is what he was probably trying to do. But you cannot. I don't care what it is. You cannot swing your stick like you're swinging a baseball bat. That cannot be tolerated in this sport. And I don't like Kuznetsov anyway in his antics too, as well. It's a guy that, in a scrum, he'll push and shove guys and he won't ever back it up. And, there's been guys that have been wanting to fight him when he's causing a ruckus and he just shies away from it completely. And then when he scores a goal, he does that fucking bird flap thing. Talk about, ignorant. Talk about fucking, trying to be arrogant. I hate looking at that every time he scores a goal with the fucking bird flap that he does. So, yeah, Kuznetsov, I'm not a fan. He's a good player, really good scorer, offensive player, but not a fan.
No, I agree. Talented player, but yeah, and anyone, there's a lot of these guys these days that, like I said, they'll chirp and get into the corners or whatever, but as soon as somebody challenges them, they have cement, in their gloves. They don't want to do anything about it. That's always unfortunate to see.
It is. So that's the way it is right there. Frustrating. And speaking of the Canucks, we're not done talking about them. Why? Because they're the first game up on the Tuesday card. The Vancouver Canucks back-to-back on the road as they take on the Columbus Blue Jackets. We've got Vancouver pretty much minus 110 even money with Columbus here, 6 being the total in this game. You talked about last night how it was another failure to protect a lead, and they had a players-only meeting after the game. Bruce Boudreau saying, we're a fragile group right now. Mentally weak would be a good assessment. When you're on a roll, you're waiting for good things to happen, and with something like this, you're waiting for something bad to happen. And that's exactly that's a great assessment for the Vancouver Canucks. And it's a shame because, look, I thought JT Miller, we talked about how we thought he'd play better last night. He got on the board with a goal. We talked that JT Miller was probably live to score a goal going into last night's game. We'll see what that players-only meeting does for them, because we know this is a team that has been good enough to have a lead in these games well into the third period in a lot of instances, and have not been able to finish the deal and close out these games. They could be 3-0 right now, honestly. They really could be 3-0. Instead, they're 0-3. I will have a small bet. There's not going to be best bet, but I will be coming back because I am, as someone says in the chat, a glutton for punishment, that I'm going to take another shot with Vancouver here on this back-to-back. But I am, and I'm going to split it up this time, first period and full game. It looks like right now we don't have confirmation, but it looks like right now Spencer Martin could be a net once again it could be a net for the first time this year for the Vancouver Canucks here on the second of back-to-back games. Of course, for Columbus, it'll be Elvis Merzlikins in net. And of course, they remain without Patrick Laine, who got injured in the first game of the season for Columbus against Carolina. So we'll see how they continue to make do without him. I haven't been impressed with Columbus. That's another reason why I don't mind taking another shot with Vancouver here, because you look at the first few games they've had: 4-1 loss to Carolina, 5-2 loss to Tampa Bay, and then a 5-2 loss to St. Louis. They really haven't been in any of these games. And now without Patrick Laine, it's one of your best prolific goal scorers you have for a team that I like their offense, but I haven't seen anybody step up outside of a couple of players so far since Laine's gone down. And the defense still continues to be an issue. Like, this team gives up goals. There's no question about that. This is not a good defensive hockey team, Columbus, and they need Elvis Merzlikins to be great, and Elvis has not been great so far this year. He needs to be steal games type of caliber goalie for this blue line in front of him, because it's not a good blue line. They're giving up the blue line easily. They're giving up offensive zone looks easily, the slot, you name it, letting teams get second, third chances with rebounds in front of the net. That's what Columbus has done. So I think Vancouver should be able to have some success offensively. It's going to come down to whether they can figure it the fuck out finally defensively and protect the lead. So I'm going to again, with the players only meeting, maybe this is what it takes to finally say, hey, guys, let's play the right way. Let's back check. Let's play as a 5-man defensive unit, not have Hoglander and Pedersen just do a little flyby, a little skate, a little free skate, and let one of the great goal scorers in our lifetime get past them. Let's not do that. Let's not have loss and toss them there, get to beaten to the front of the net by Sheary. Let's all help each other out. Let's play as a 5-man unit here. I will, for better or worse, come back to the Vancouver Canucks tonight, and I'll split it up: first period money line and full game money line. If they don't win tonight, we're gonna take a break from Vancouver. We'll be having a little separation period. Me and my bankroll with the Vancouver Canucks if they don't get the job done tonight. I actually lean under, and I don't love saying that because I think Vancouver's struggling defensively. Columbus is struggling defensively. I've talked about Columbus being an over team, and I've backed a couple overs with Columbus. The St. Louis game and the Tampa game on Friday night, back-to-back overs with them. But I just feel both teams are going to want to tighten up, especially Vancouver, knowing what's happened the last few games, blowing these leads. So for that reason, I might make an exception and lean under with this game tonight. Alex, what do you think, Vancouver, Columbus?
Yeah, the way I would approach this from a side perspective, the only way I would be looking at would be Vancouver first period on the money line. I mean, their issues have come in the second and third periods. The first period, they've been relatively solid. And when you look at Columbus, he said their issues are mostly on defense, but also missing line. They aren't able to get the offensive consistency that we were expecting to see from this club in the first couple of games. We thought this was going to be a kind of a dynamite over team the way that they were last year. Adding Gaudreau and having line, having that top six solidified. But they're having those issues right now. So having that along side, having some shaky goaltending and defense. This game. Over or under, I'm staying away from it because under would make sense. You want to, both teams want to try to clamp down a bit defensively, be a little more responsible on their own, especially Vancouver. If they have a lead in the second, third period, you would think that it's going to be all hands on deck defensively to try to hold that lead after what's happened in the last 3 games. So I'm staying away from a total here. The only thing I'm looking at is Vancouver. First period money line, which is also $1.10. It's exactly you've seen picking prices for the full game sides and the first period sides in this one.
Yeah, I think early you're going to get focus from them. And keep in mind these early season back-to-back games, I don't think they're as detrimental, in terms of fatigue. Like this is early in the season, right, Alex?
Yeah, you shouldn't be fatigued this in the first week.
Exactly. Like if you're talking back-to-back situation and you're talking 3 games in 4 nights like this, in December, January, February, March, as we get later on in the season, then you worry about fatigue a little bit and you worry about exhaustion. But certainly right now, a situation where it shouldn't be that
short travel too. Some spots where the travel, could be a little bit longer. We haven't seen that so far. Most back-to-backs we've seen have been very short distance travels. DC to Columbus isn't anything. So yeah, this should really be no fatigue spots until you start seeing 3 or 4 games or 5 and 7 games moving forward.
No doubt. By the way, they're moving up Vasily Podkolzin potentially to the top line. Kuzmenko in the second line. There's some props I might look at for Vancouver tonight in this game. And Gus Nyquist is going to get a shot now on the top line. Didn't really work out with Danforth. He's back down to the third line. I still think whoever's playing with Gaudreau and Jenner is going to eventually have a chance to find the back of the net. So maybe that's Gus Nyquist here tonight, playing on that top line for the Columbus Blue Jackets. All right, next up here, we've got the Boston Bruins taking on the Ottawa Senators. Ottawa minus 125, home favorites in this game, 6 the total across the board. I took the Sens here, minus 120, minus 125. Situational edge, no question. We just talked about how it's early in the season. The back-to-backs aren't great, but if you watch that Boston-Florida game, pretty intense, back and forth, good pace to it as well. That Bruin-Panther game last night. It was a very nice win for the Bruins. Give them all the credit in the world. They've gotten off to a 3-0 start this season with no Matt Grzelcyk, with no Charlie McAvoy, with no Brandon Carlo. That's what was so impressive about beating a really good team like Florida last night. 3 starting defensemen out, still without Brad Marchand out front, and still got the job done. And credit to them, credit to Montgomery, credit to all the players for stepping up. But this is a very tough spot, really is, because you played a high pace, high energy game A lot of back and forth play. There wasn't really a stagnant pace at any moment in that Bruins-Panthers game last night. And now you got to play Ottawa, who are rested, who are coming off a couple of road losses to begin the year against Buffalo and Toronto. But now you've got an Ottawa team that's rested playing their home opener, so they'll be excited for that. And I think, it's definitely a huge, huge situational spot advantage for the Ottawa Senators. That doesn't mean this is a lock. This doesn't mean for sure they're going to win, but the price is reasonable enough. I really like the price when it opened plus 105, plus 100 on Ottawa. It has moved a little bit to minus 120, minus 125, but I still like it at this current price, the Senators to get the job done. And I think I like the over a little bit in this game. I've targeted Ottawa's games to go over the total. Hasn't worked out that way so far. The offense hasn't really thrived yet for this group, but give it time. And I think a Bruin team that has defensive issues right now in terms of personnel, they're still going to be very much shorthanded tonight, the Bruins on the back end. They're also going to be without the same three guys that they were without last night, Grizzlick, Carlo, and McAvoy, not to mention Anton Strawman, who they got in the offseason, is on IR. I think it shows up tonight, that short-handed, depleted defensive core and that depleted blue line. I think tonight's the night that shows up for Boston in a negative light. So I like Ottawa here. I like over, and I would even consider maybe at over 3.5 the Senators team total as well tonight in this game. I think, short-handed Boston blue line, playing the second of back-to-back games. I think this is an opportunity for Ottawa. An offense that we think in time is going to be pretty good. I think this is the night they have that first big offensive performance tonight and get 4+ goals here against this Boston team. What do you think here, Alex? Bruins Senators.
Yeah, this is a game. I'm looking at the overs. I wanted to take the first period over, but I'm seeing $1.40, $1.45s across the board. That's a little bit too steep, so I'm going to try to adjust and grab that in game. But I'm definitely on the over 6 here, and you can get that as I'm looking around. No higher than minus 15, minus 120 at most shops. I think that's a good price. Like I said, I think Ottawa's offense, it's destined to bloom and blossom at some point. It's just a matter of when, not if. And then Boston, like I said, having the defensive issues, second night of a back-to-back. Well, I don't expect, like I said, so much fatigue, but I also just kind of stylistically, I just feel like they could, try to kind of keep the same pace we saw against Florida late in that game. We saw the offense really rocking and rolling for Boston too. So I think that because of that offense, they're kind of trying to play defense. What's they say the best defense is having possession of the puck, having possession of the ball. So they're trying to utilize their offense, get them involved in the play more so they don't have to rely on dropping back and having the defense do all the work. So I think this screams over to me. I think it's a cheap price, 6 at minus $1.20. I'll go with over on the Sens and Bruins.
All right, Bruins Senators over the total for Alex in this one. Yeah, our guest is going to have to join us another day for friggin' computer issues. We've all been through that. We know that for sure.
Definitely.
Yeah, we know what that's like, but we'll get Brian Lee back. He wants to come back on, so we'll definitely get that rescheduled. No question about that. That's okay though, because it gave me extra time to rant, and that was fun. That's the good news. You always got to look for the positive in everything. That's the positive. I got a chance to really get some shit off my chest earlier in the show. All right, Anaheim, New Jersey. We've got New Jersey minus 190, home favorite, 6.5 the total in this one. So I am not bailing on the Anaheim Ducks just yet. I'm taking them at this price. Small bet, nothing significant because, again, it's a scheduling edge for New Jersey. There's no question. They're a rested team. They're 0-2. I think sense of urgency, desperation, I think has to take over. But I was saying this shit. Alex, you were saying this shit prior to the game against Detroit. Emergency's got to take over. Miles Wood saying, I'm sick of losing. Well, what did you do about it? You played like horse shit in the third period. That's what you did about it. Nothing. You ended up losing to the Red Wings there on Saturday night. So that's the issue right now. New Jersey, to me, is not a team I like at minus 190. They are not a team that I trust at minus 190. And I am more than willing, more than happy, content, win or lose, to take a shot against them when they're laying minus 190 because their problems still remain in the defensive end of the ice. And so do Anaheim. I mean, Anaheim's no defensive juggernaut right now based on what we've seen for the last 2 games. But New Jersey's been every bit as bad, and they're the team laying minus 190 in this game. And to be quite honest with you, if it is Anthony Stolarz tonight, it hasn't been confirmed yet for the Anaheim Ducks. He's been capable at times We're not asking him to be spectacular. Now, he did come in relief for John Gibson last night, so there is a potential. Maybe they go back to Gibson. We'll see. But regardless of who's in net for Anaheim, they played the Islanders. They played the Rangers starting this road trip. And I've got my issues with the Islanders. They're still a more fundamentally sound, structured team than the Devils. This is the best chance in this 3-game New York swing. The Devils, the Islanders, and the Rangers. This is the best chance for Anaheim to get a win. So I'm going to take a shot with them at plus 160 tonight. It's just a fade of New Jersey in a price range they don't belong in my opinion. And I like the over here. I mean, the total's been hammered up. This opened at 6. Alex, it's 6.5 with juice shaded to the over at minus 120 right now. And you can understand why. These two teams are certainly leaking in the defensive end significantly early in the season, but both teams have more than enough firepower offensively to take advantage of those defensive struggles. For New Jersey, you've got Tatar, Hischier, Bratt, Palat, Hughes, Mercer, Wood, and company. And then, of course, Anaheim. Scoring ain't their issue. Ryan Strome, Vetrano, who they got from the Rangers last year to go with Zegras, Terry, Mason McTavish. Lundestrom is a good offensive player. Klingberg really gets the offense going a lot more now from the blue line. So it's not surprising to see Anaheim kind of play in more higher scoring games either so far this year. And again, both teams struggling defensively right now. Struggling just like my voice right now. Anaheim, New Jersey, I think we'll go the over. Pretty good look here. Over 6.5, minus 120 as well. Alex, what do you think here? Ducks, Devils.
Yeah, I think you might actually be able to wait in game and get a plus price or even a 5.5 potentially. I don't think we're going to just see this become a boat race right off the first puck drop. And I think, both teams realize that they're struggling defensively. They need to get things in gear on that end of the ice. And more than likely, we're going to see Stolarz. Like I said, it hasn't been confirmed, but based on what Dallas Eakins said last night about when they pulled Gibson, they said he had something going on with his body. And they said, where the score was at that point, it didn't seem really intelligent to leave him in there. Excuse me. So it just seemed like it would be Stolarz. And like you mentioned, he was ranked as one of my better backups in the charts last year. He came out the first performance he had last year, I think, if I'm not mistaken, it was against Seattle. I think he had a 42 save win against the Kraken. Now, obviously, you have to take it in spots when you're talking about backup goalies, and he's a true number 2. He's not necessarily a 1B option, but he has been more than capable in a lot of those relief spots. And he's used to playing the first and second and within a back-to-back, splitting that time with Gibson. I think this is a good spot for him here. But he's still going to let in some goals. I don't think it's going to be a Gibson-esque performance of giving up 5 goals on 25 shots. But I think we should see the offense open up with this game. But I think it's not going to happen right away. So I think you have a better chance of grabbing a better number or a better price at 6.5 if you wait live.
And that's always an option, is waiting live, see if you can get a better price and a better number in game. And that's certainly possible here if we get maybe a 5-10 minute period of no goals early in this game with the Ducks and the Devils. All right, Philadelphia, Tampa Bay, the Lightning minus 295 home favorites, 6.5 the total. Look, like I said on Monday's show yesterday, and referencing my power ratings that are now available on patreon.com/iceguys, I had the Philadelphia Flyers as the worst team in the NHL entering the season. I had them lower than Arizona. I had them lower than San Jose, Chicago, any of those worst teams in the league you can think of. I had Philadelphia worse than them because I didn't like the vibe. I thought the roster, especially with Sean Couturier out to begin the year, you're starting the year with Morgan Frost and Kevin Hayes as your top 2 starting centers. You're decimated. You're thin at that position, and that's a position of you need to be strong in for success in the NHL. The blue line outside of Provorov, I had a lot of questions with them. And then, of course, you had the goaltending. Could Carter Hart be capable for a guy that's been inconsistent as well? I just thought, and then Tortorella saying the dressing room's all messed up before he even steps into training camp with the team. And I'm like, this looks like a shit show waiting to happen. And sure enough, that's why I had them dead last. And yet here they are in 2 games. They look like they're playing with some structure. And you have to give all the credit in the world to Torts. He has demanded that, be accountable in the defensive zone, play it. You talk about Vancouver not playing as a 5-man unit defensively, forwards and defensemen, forwards not back checking, helping out the blue liners. Philly's playing that way right now. They are. They're buying into being good away from the puck. And look, Tortorella won't have it any other way. If you're not good away from the puck individually, you know what? You're getting sat down. Your ass is stapled to the bench with John Tortorella around. And that's what we've seen in the first 2 games. They've been solid defensively. They've been responsible. In the first 2 games, they were, even though the shots, it'll show they gave up 37 to New Jersey and 30 to Vancouver. A lot of the shots weren't as high quality as some of the stuff Philly was giving up last year. So you do have to give Tortorella credit for that. 5-2 win over New Jersey, 3-2 win over Vancouver. Having said that, though, they play a New Jersey team who's been awful so far in the first few games, and a Vancouver team we just talked about for a ton on this show, how they're struggling to protect leads. So now you're going and both of those were at home. So now you're going on the road. You're facing, obviously, a team that's been one of the best teams in the NHL for years, been to the Stanley Cup final 3 years in a row, the Tampa Bay Lightning, who, by the way, have a big rest advantage, and I'm certainly won't be happy about losing 6-2 to Pittsburgh on Saturday night in their last game. And we know long-term Tampa's been good off a loss. Will that kind of track record maintain itself this year? Well, they're already 1-0 off a loss this year. They lost to the Rangers on opening night, and then they bounced back and they beat Columbus. So, you would expect Tampa Bay to play a good game, bounce back and win, but certainly not going to lay minus 295. And at the same time, Philadelphia is taking somewhat, all right, of a step up in class here tonight. They are. For as good as they looked in the 2 home games against Jersey and Vancouver, this will be a tougher ask for them here going into this game. And let's keep in mind, too, with Philadelphia, still some key personnel that could be out of the lineup here for them. Of course, Cirelli's been out to start the year for Tampa, and we know that is a significant loss. They miss him badly, but it's Couturier, Owen Tippett's on IR, Cam Atkinson's out for Philadelphia. There are some people making a big deal that Rasmus Ristolainen's out. I think he's one of the most overrated defensemen in the NHL. So I'm not as petrified if I'm a Flyer fan that he's out of the lineup. But nevertheless, you got to go to a little bit more of your depth along the blue line, and you've got some young guys back there. Igor Zamula, Nick Seeler, getting more ice time. Braun and Sanheim, Provorov and D'Angelo have played better as a pair than I thought here in the first 2 games. So, Philadelphia is the one thing, and Tortorella said this, Alex, in both press conferences after the 2 wins. We've played our asses off. We've played hard, and there is no denying that. You watch Philly. I thought last year they tapped out. Like, they didn't play hard certain games. They were just mailing it in. They've played very hard. The work ethic has been superb in 2 games for the Philadelphia Flyers. And that work ethic, if they bring it tonight, maybe they can hang around and give Tampa a scare. We'll have to wait and see. I'm intrigued to watch this one. But from a betting standpoint, nothing on it pregame for me. Alex, what do you think here? Philly, Tampa Bay.
Yeah, the only thing I'm going to do is take a small shot with Lightning, first period puck line, laying the half a goal at plus 110. That's the only thing of value really on the Tampa Bay side. And the reason I'm looking at that is you mentioned about Philly. First 2 games, they look sharp. They have the work ethic. Carter Hart's been phenomenal. But let's go through in his career, his home and road splits. At home, 46, 32, and 9, 2.67 goals against, and a 915 save percentage and 88 starts. When he's on the road, 18, 29, and 7 with a 3.41 goals against and an 890 save percentage. And then let's add in the fact against Tampa Bay, he is 0-5-1 with a 4.33 goals against average and an 8.59 save percentage. He has not done well away from the city of brotherly love. He has not done well facing against this Lightning team in 6 stars. So I don't know if they can hold on and put the screws to him for 60 minutes, but I'll take a shot with it at least in the first 20. I'll go Lightning on the puck line, laying the half goal.
All right, Lightning first period puck line for Alex in that game. All right, next, excuse me. Next up, we've got the San Jose Sharks and the New York Islanders. Islanders minus 195, home favorites, 5.5 the total in this game. This was the easiest pass on the board for me, quite honestly, today. I didn't have to think more than 10 seconds what I was going to do with this game. I ain't laying $1.95 with the New York Islanders, and there is no situation or price that's going to get me on the San Jose Sharks right now. So for me, this is a clear and easy pass as far as I'm concerned. I could lean under, but Other than that, it's going to be a stay away from me. I'm not going to do anything with this game. I may not even watch much of it. Well, obviously, I'll watch the highlights, but certainly not. This is going to be one of the games I'm not rushing to watch tonight. But definitely pass for me in this game. I don't want either team in this situation. What do you think here, Alex? Sharks, Islanders.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. I won't watch this game. Like I said, I'll catch up with it in the highlights in the morning. This will probably be a snooze fest. Like I said, if you had to look at anything, it would have to be under or nothing. Islanders, we know how they want to play, and if they're going to dictate the pace, which they should against San Jose, this will be a 2-0 game. That's just the way they want to do things. And San Jose is just in poor form right now. I don't know what it's going to really take for them to be in a spot where I will bet them, honestly, because I mean they're getting the big prices, but they're rightfully giant underdogs, larger underdogs for a reason. So it's a clear pass.
All right, nothing wrong with that. All right, we move on now to next game on the card here, Vegas and Calgary. Calgary minus 155 home favorite, 6.5 the total. This got down to as low as $1.45, and at that price, I did take Calgary minus 145. It's gone up to the point now where I think for the show, I would recommend Calgary in regulation now. I like this Flames team a lot. They are only behind Colorado in my power ratings right now, number 2 in the league. And you would think, why don't you have them number 1? Because they beat Colorado head to head. Well, you can't displace Colorado from number 1 just because of that, because you have to factor in it was a back-to-back for Colorado on the road after playing Chicago the night before. And Calgary took advantage of a good situation for them. So, but no, they're right there with Colorado. They're just behind Colorado. And it's a close margin right now with Colorado and Calgary. That's how good they are to me. That this blue line 1 through 6, like I said many times, Alex, there's no Norris Trophy candidate, but there's 6 really sturdy, solid, sound, fundamentally strong defensemen. Weegar, Tanev, Hanifin, Anderson, Zadorov, and Stone for now, but wait till they get Oliver Shillington back, and that is a terrific 6 right there on the blue line. And look, you want to know how to, and maybe Calgary had to learn some painful lessons against Edmonton. I loved their third period defensively against Edmonton on Saturday night. That was a clinic. That's how you shut down a high-powered team and protect a 1-goal lead on the road. That was terrific by Calgary. They didn't give the Oilers very much at all. They neutralized McDavid and Draisaitl in that third period. Again, sticks in the lanes, closing the gap in the neutral zone, good gap control, time and space taken away, sticks in the lanes, blocking shots, all the little things that, again, Daryl Sutter's kind of like a John Tortorella clone in that you got to be good defensively or else, your minutes are going to get dwindled in terms of ice time if you're not going to play that way. So, no, it's been very impressive, Calgary defensively. And, I don't want to totally discredit what Vegas has done. It's been a great start for them, too. A nice, strong 3-0 to begin the year. They've looked very solid defensively much of the games that they've played. They had a little trouble with LA. 4-3 in their first game, and they had to score a late goal to win that one, but shut out Chicago and hold Seattle to just 2 goals, both of them coming late in the game when it had already been decided. No, so Vegas is playing really well, but I think the difference is here in this game is going to be now Vegas going on the road, against, I think, probably the toughest team they've played. Whereas you look at because they played LA, but LA's been kind of up and down this year, although they've had a nice road trip so far. They played Chicago, who we know, they're going to have a tough season. Seattle, improving, but, they're not that playoff team yet. We don't think so. That's been the 3 games for Vegas. Does it get any more difficult for Calgary? What they've faced, Edmonton and Colorado, in their first 2 games, and they come out of it winning both games, looking very impressive. So to me, people are going to say, wait a minute, this Vegas is undefeated. How can they be catching this kind of price? They're catching this kind of price for a reason. I like what Vegas is doing. Bruce Cassidy's a great hire. Eichel's gotten off to a nice start. Don't get me wrong. And like I said, their blue line, Pietrangelo and Martinez and McNabb and company and Theodore, they got a good blue line too in Vegas. But I think the difference here is going to end up being the forward depth of Calgary, the 1 through 6 on defense. And at the end of the day, as much as Logan Thompson we think's got a bright future, got to give Calgary the little bit of the edge in net. And certainly they've faced a tougher schedule to this point, Calgary, than Vegas has. And I think that's the difference. And I think that's why Calgary's laying this, not a cheap number, if you will. That's why they're laying minus 145, minus 155 here instead of just say minus 125 or minus 130. I think they're a higher favorite here for a reason. I like Calgary. I bet them at minus 145 full game money line this morning. It's moved up since then. I don't like giving out a money line above minus 150 for the show, so I'm going to recommend Calgary in regulation now instead at close to even money. Alex, what do you think here? Golden Knights, Flames.
Yeah, that's the spot I'm actually about to bet is Flames in regulation here. And this is a spot, you mentioned in your power rankings, you have them second. I have them number 4, but it's a number 4 with a bullet. I mean, I moved them up. I had them 9th at the beginning of the year, so I quickly moved them. That's actually the largest move up on my power rankings. You can read the rest of those and the charts over at patreon.com/iceguys. But this is a Calgary team. Like I said, they're built to play well at both ends of the ice. I mean, and like I said, the shutdown performance and the big saves from Vladar in the third period against the Oilers, that shows you the growth and maturity from a year ago. They wouldn't be able to have closed out Edmonton like that. We saw that obviously in the postseason. They wouldn't have been able to have those defensive strides and also chip in offensively. It seemed Calgary's game was very seesaw. It was either they had 7 goals from their top lines and then they give up 5, or they play that Sutter defensive style and they lose 2-1. It was just very, very up and down. But now they have a lot more balance and consistency throughout the entire lineup every single night. Vegas has been good defensively as well, but I just don't trust quite, like you said, in their whole situational spot here against the Calgary team. I think this is a step up in class. If this were later in the year, I'd probably look at a draw play. That's kind of how these two teams kind of fare out, especially being in the division. But this early in the year, Calgary knows they want to establish dominance in the Pacific. They got to get 2 points here, so I like them to get that win within 60 minutes.
The only minor fear I have is that Logan Thompson's a Calgary kid, so he's going to be close to home. He'll want to play well, but doesn't mean that for sure that's always an angle that's going to come through and win for you. So I like Calgary here, though, at the price here. And like I said, Vegas off to a 3-0 start, but again, their schedule has been Chicago. You can't compare Vegas with Chicago and they played L.A., Chicago, and the third team was Seattle. Yeah, there you go. Mine went asleep there for a second, but yeah, there you go. Those were the 3 games. And then Calgary, like I said, I don't know if it's possible to play 2 more difficult first 2 opponents of the season than Edmonton and Colorado. I mean, my goodness. I mean, you talk about getting yourself in tune quickly for a new season and testing yourself. You can't test yourself much better or much greater than facing the Oilers and the Avalanche to begin the season. So Alex and I both looking at Calgary here in this one. All right, next up, we've got Buffalo and Edmonton. Dylan Dubé, by the way, keep looking at that guy for prop standpoint. Great start to the season for him, undervalued compared to some of those other forwards for the Calgary Flames. Sabres and Oilers, we've got Edmonton minus 240, home favorites, 7 the total in this game. So I immediately, because I knew that total was probably going to go up to 7, overnight, when it was minus 125, minus 130. I think it was minus 130 when I bet it. I hopped on over 6.5. And sure enough, 7 when I woke up this morning. And I said, I'm not shocked. That's why I bet it overnight. I agree with that. Buffalo, look, a nice win against Ottawa. We've seen Ottawa in 2 games. Again, the offense is going to take some time. A lot of new faces when you factor in, Alex DeBrincat, Claude Giroux, a lot of the new faces there. It's just going to take time to get that chemistry and that rhythm with the forward groups and the line combinations. And we saw that in the first 2 games. But then Buffalo played a pretty, we think, potent Florida team, and they struggled a little bit more in that game. And that's the thing with Buffalo. I like this team's compete level. I really admired the way they played against Florida, even though they lost. They kept battling back. They got the early goal, but they fell behind and they came back again and scored. I mean, this is a good, hard-trying, hard-working Buffalo team. And I think that's what they're going to be this year. So Edmonton's got to be on their toes tonight. No question about that. But you get Edmonton now looking to bounce back after a 4-3 setback in the Battle of Alberta on Saturday against Calgary. Jay Woodcroft kind of calling out his team a little bit, saying we can't get off to these sloppy bad starts. We can't. Saying, we can't dig ourselves that, because look, there's been 2 games in a row now. Edmonton's dug themselves an early hole in these games. The game against Vancouver, they fell behind early in the first period. And then, of course, Canucks had one of their 3 collapses to begin the season, and Edmonton came back and won. And same thing against Calgary. They got behind big early in that game. What was it? 4-1. for Calgary after the first period, and they battled their way back, but not enough, and they fell short 4-3. So that's what Jay Woodcroft was saying after the Calgary loss. We can't get off to these slow starts consistently. We've got to start playing better in the opening period. So to be honest with you, I would kind of lean Edmonton first period puck line here tonight. I think it's actually worth a look. Edmonton first period puck line. I mean, the team's not happy, with these slow starts. And I assume we're going to see Jack Campbell back in net for, no, it's going to be a Skinner again for the Edmonton Oilers, Stuart Skinner. And look, he played pretty well. He didn't give up a goal when he came into the game on Saturday night for the Oilers after Jack Campbell got pulled. Now, it wasn't all Jack's fault. They were sloppy with the puck, but at the same time, I thought there was one goal at least there he could have stopped. And Jay Woodcroft saw how well Skinner played in relief. And I think he's kind of going on a hunch right now that, hey, Skinner played really well to keep Calgary at 4, and give us ourselves a chance to get back into that game on Saturday night. So he's rewarding Stuart Skinner with another start here tonight for the Oilers against the Sabres. So I think that Edmonton first period puck line, I probably am going to hop on that. I like to look for these situations throughout the course of the season. I think I've made these kind of bets, Alex, and recommended them a bunch where we have these spots where these teams are just, they know they've gotten off to bad starts, and they now recognize this is now not once but twice in a row this has happened, where Edmonton has been falling behind in the first period. I think they want to do something about it tonight here against Buffalo. So I'm going to look toward Edmonton first period puck line -0.5 +115 +120 +125 actually with that. In some spots. And I like over 6.5. I'd still lean that way at 7, but if you didn't get the 6.5, I would say, as Alex often says on the show here, wait for maybe a live opportunity, see if this total drops, if it gets off to a slow start. Alex, what do you think here? Sabres, Oilers?
Yeah, I'm kind of taking a combination of what the two things you bet. I'm going to go first period over at 2, even money. Don't really like playing a whole lot of 2s, but I think this is certainly a good spot for it. We had a good spot with it last night in Colorado and Minnesota. That one got up and over. So I think we can do that here, especially with these two backups. Skinner, like I said, had a great start, got the shutout, but we know he's one of those goalies that you can't just rely on game in, game out. He can kind of give you a Jekyll and Hyde, a stretch of play. And Eric Comrie is just a goaltender I don't really trust as well. So I can see Edmonton coming out hot. And we know when they get their offense rolling and early in a hurry, we know they can put on points plenty. So I can see 2-3 goals here for sure, just from Edmonton alone potentially. So I lean with you on that first period puck line, but I'm going to go with a little bit safer route and go over 2 in the first period at even money.
Yeah, Eric Comrie in net for Buffalo didn't actually play that bad against Florida. Faced 37 shots, made 33 saves. But again, if Edmonton brings that focus and that intensity that we think they might from the opening puck drop, because this is a very good Edmonton hockey team. They're not stupid. They know that the first 2 games, they have not been ready to go in the first period. And now, but again, they go from Vancouver. Calgary's a good team, and Buffalo is improving, but they're not at that level yet where they're a really good team. This is an opportunity for Edmonton to fix these slow starts and these bad first periods. We'll see if they can do just that tonight against Buffalo. All right, final game of this Tuesday card, Los Angeles Kings, Nashville Predators. We've got Nashville -170, home favorites in this game, 6 the total, pretty much across the board in this one. There's a bunch of these spots on the card where it's a clear situational advantage for one team. We talked about how it is for New Jersey, even though I don't trust them. It is for Ottawa against Boston, and it is for Nashville here against LA. I mean, they haven't played since back-to-back losses to the Dallas Stars, and now they're at home. I think you're going to want to see them play pretty well or bounce back, play a much better game here, and they get a LA team that's coming in off a wild back and forth, a pretty exhausting hockey game. Back and forth it went with the Detroit Red Wings last night. LA ends up getting the 5-4 overtime victory. So it is going to be a little bit of a tricky spot here for the Kings on the back-to-back. It does set up well for the Nashville Predators. I don't know if I'll get to the window now with it because this line opened -145 all the way up to -170 now in some spots. So if you like Nashville, you've really missed the best of the number. I might look more toward. I do think the over could get there as well because we're seeing the Kings on this road trip, Alex. Defensively, they're giving up a lot, and at home they were playing things a little bit tighter to the vest. I find on the road they're playing a little more loosey goosey hockey, if you will, loose in their own end, a little bit more up and down the ice. Both of their road games on this trip have gone over the total. The Wild game against Minnesota on Saturday, and then of course another over last night. So I do like this over at 6 here. It's gone up from 5.5 to 6. I would still recommend it at 6 for a goal scorer prop. Velarde for LA just continues to find the back of the net. I don't hate Kaliev either for a good value. I've mentioned him as well, but especially Gabe Velarde. He's already got 3 goals this year. I think that's a good player prop. Can never argue with Kempe, who was one of the goal scorers last night. And for Nashville, you got to rock with Nino Niederreiter. This is the one guy that's really producing offensively for them early in the year. 4 goals already for Nino Niederreiter. And now remember, this team has played 4 games, not 2. They played San Jose twice and Dallas twice. Of course, the 2 San Jose games were in Prague, the Czech Republic. But 4 goals in 4 games for Niederreiter. I think that's a good goal scorer prop tonight for the Nashville Predators. He has certainly fit in well here coming over from the Carolina Hurricanes and given this team a little bit more of an offensive jolt. Alex, what do you think here, LA, Nashville?
Yeah, this is the late night ESPN start. I think this is going to be a fun game to watch, honestly. And, he said the Kings. I mean, that was an incredible game last night. I actually watched the replay of that full game overnight with Detroit. Just incredible, performance. And now LA back-to-back games where they're nail biters. And now, having to play a Nashville team that, it's interesting. For years, we talked about how consistent this team was defensively, but now they've gotten things rolling with their offense. Going back to last year, they've gone 9 of their last 13 games over the total. So this one screams to me going over, but I like it in the first period. And it's funny, this is another game where we've seen the full game total move from 5.5 to 6, but we've actually seen the price on the first period over drop from 145 down to 135. And I get that's a reaction to Saros being confirmed in that going up against Cal Peterson. But I still think that these offenses are good enough to at least find 1 goal each behind each of these netminders. I think it's going to be a high scoring affair. So I lean with the over for the full game, but I'm already on that first period over.
Yeah, there's a type of bet that I'm really mad I haven't been on this bet already this year. And it's a bet I was on a lot last year, especially later in the season and at playoff time. And I know Cheshire Cat, a couple people in our chat have mentioned this, both teams to score in the first period. I've got to start looking at that again because I left money on the table last night with a couple of those where I was thinking about it and I didn't get around to betting. Colorado, Minnesota was one. I'm like, damn, exactly. Why didn't I take first period, both teams to score there in that game? It didn't play out the way I was hoping for there. But that was one of many examples the last a few days, especially where it's like, man, I got to remember to start looking at some first period, both teams to score. So with that in mind, a couple games where I could see it coming through tonight. Buffalo, Edmonton for sure. LA, Nashville as well. We just talked about it. I could see the both teams to score first period being a good way to go. Anaheim, New Jersey. I think a first
I like
period.
That Boston, Ottawa.
Ottawa as well. Yeah, exactly. Vancouver, Columbus, not so much because I think, look, you got Vancouver. That game could be high scoring just because Vancouver just simply can't play consistent, good defense, but the concerted effort to be better in their own zone. You would think it has to be there tonight for Vancouver. They had the players only meeting to hash this out, talk about it, get shit off their chest. You would think in theory that team's ready to dig in defensively from the opening puck drop tonight. So that's why I would maybe shy away from a first period, both teams to score in that game. I would look more toward, as Alex mentioned, Boston, Ottawa, Anaheim, New Jersey, Buffalo, Edmonton, LA, Nashville. I think those are your 4 best candidates right there tonight for both teams to score in the first period. And you'll always get a plus price with that as well. So, you hit 2 with, let's say those 4 games that we mentioned, 2 and 2, it's profit. You're going to make money if you go 2 and 2 with those both teams to score in the first period on those 4 games. Again, we think Boston, Ottawa, Anaheim, New Jersey, Buffalo, Edmonton, LA, Nashville are good candidates tonight for that both teams to score in the first period. All right, great stuff, great show. We appreciate everybody joining us here for another edition of the Ice Guys. Hit the like button on the way out. We appreciate it very much.
Over
And check out
250 viewers.
Yeah,
On the
exactly.
show
A
today,
great,
so we thank everybody.
absolutely great amount of live viewers. We appreciate it. 255. Hit the like button for sure. We appreciate it very much. And by the way, Alex Iafallo has just been placed on IR for LA. I failed to mention that with that Kings Predators game. So it's an unfortunate loss for them. I know he plays more in the third line so far this year, but still one of the players that they think are going to have a bright future for them long term. So it's tough to see that Alex Iafallo for the Kings now moved to injured reserve as of today. So keep an eye on how long he's out for the LA Kings. But yeah, great show. We'll get Brian Lee rescheduled. We'll do some testing because it worked fine with Brian the last time he was on in the playoffs. No problem at all with getting onto a StreamYard, and the computer was fine. So we'll get Brian back on another time. We've still got other guests, by the way, later this week. Mike Hamilton Thursday, Nate Rapensky Friday, Kyle Bond on Saturday, Jay Rosehill next Tuesday, by the way, will be joining us as well. You talk about a guy that didn't have boring fights, dull fights. That was one guy that did not have many dull fights. He dropped the gloves. They were swinging. So looking forward to having him on the show next Tuesday for sure. And also next Tuesday, a reminder, Betcast, our first Ice Guys live Betcast of the season. Next Tuesday, a week from today, Tuesday, October 25th, starting at 7 p.m. Eastern time. Same as all last year. If you want to join us on the Betcast, DM me or Alex, and we will make sure we send you a link for the Betcast to join us. Bring your favorite adult beverages. We drink. We watch the games. We place a shit ton of live bets. It's just a lot of fun. It's a pub atmosphere, a bar atmosphere with those live Betcasts, and looking forward to having our first of the new season next Tuesday.
Yeah, absolutely. And everybody also make sure to check out patreon.com/Ice Guys. We got that rocking and rolling now the way that we want to. We've got power rankings from both of us. I've got my goalie charts. We've also got a bookmark list, links that every NHL bettor should bookmark. These are just websites that we use in our everyday handicapping. People have emailed me and tweeted me about this question for years. And I've always said, I want to get a comprehensive list together. So Ian and I have put that together. That's on the page as well. We've got some more bonus content coming up as well. We're going to be doing some videos and just a lot of fun, different things. So definitely it's worth subscribing to now. I know a lot of people in the past were kind of wondering with different things about the Patreon. It's worth its weight now for sure. Patreon.com/Ice Guys, just $10 a month.
Yeah, exactly. You'll get power ratings, goalie charts. Chris Otto, we thank him for providing his totals charts for the period-by-period totals charts. Those are on Patreon as well. We've got the daily cards for the Ice Guys show. You name it. We're gonna have bonus content like special things like I'm gonna get my broadcaster rankings going for the local I'm finally gonna post that and do a video about it, and that's gonna be in November. We'll be doing stuff like that, just bonus extra content. Not always about betting either, just hockey in general. So it's gonna be a lot of fun.
The reverse retro jerseys by Adidas actually drop in 2 days, so I'll be doing my full ranking and I'll have a video of that as well. So like I said, it's going to be hockey centric. It's not all just betting stuff. It's going to be a lot of fun things. I think everybody will really enjoy it.
Yeah, no doubt. So check that out on Patreon, and check out nationalhockeynow.com as well. Great website. We've got several team websites there. Great resource for all the teams that have the team sites right now, and they're consistently adding them. You get great information, the beat writers and reporters, including our very own Jimmy Murphy, who we hope to have on very soon. Definitely do a great job there. So check that out, patreon.com/Ice Guys, and National Hockey Now as well, nationalhockeynow.com. All right. Best bets to wrap up this Tuesday edition of the Ice Guys. Alex, we'll start with you. What do you like for best bet?
Getting my camera back. There we go. Yeah, we're going to go with that LA-Nashville first period over tonight. That's the ESPN late game. The Kings have just been rolling with these overs. It's been a lot of fun to watch. Leave it to a team from Hollywood to bring some drama to the ice, right? And Nashville, they always play well at home. I think they're going to try to get things rolling a little bit more so offensively. Like I said, they've been trending as an over team all year. So I like that first period over. I think it's a good price. Only land $1.35 to go over 1.5 with the Kings and the Preds tonight. That's my best bet.
All right, there we go. Kings and Preds over in the first period, over 1.5 for Alex B. Smith, minus 135. for his best bet tonight. My best bet will not be the Vancouver Canucks tonight. Definitely not going to be after last night. That was tough to see it go down like that. Very frustrating, but we'll see if we can bounce back tonight. And look, I'm going to come back with best bet on a team that treated me very well on Saturday when I used them as a best bet, and I'm going to come back to them tonight. In regulation, let's go with those Calgary Flames. They are red hot like a flame right now to begin the year. It doesn't get more impressive than 2-0 and beating Colorado and Edmonton to start out the season, 2-0. We're going to come right back to the well tonight with the Calgary Flames, minus 104 in regulation against Vegas. That is going to be my best bet for this Tuesday NHL card. And that'll wrap up this edition of the Ice Guys. We thank everybody for joining us in the chat. Hit the like button on the way out. And again, the podcast will be posted much quicker than last year and previous seasons. So make sure you tune in. If you can't watch the show live, we are live Monday to Friday, 2 p.m. Eastern, Saturday and Sunday, noon Eastern. If you can't watch the Ice Guys show live, download the Ice Guys podcast on all major podcast platforms: Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, iHeartRadio, and now Amazon Music as well has us on the Ice Guys podcast as well. So we are literally everywhere with the podcast.
I tweeted that out too, and I put it on our Instagram as well. If you can, somebody takes a video of them asking Alexa to play the Ice Guys podcast, get that recorded, send it to us, and we might be able to give you some free merch.
There you go. That's all you got to do. Say, hey, Alexa, or some of my friends, actually, they don't treat Alexa very well. Some of my friends, actually, they take it for that and say, hey, bitch, do this.
Yeah, sometimes it doesn't always work. Sometimes I got a couple friends who have that as well, and they have to scream at it about 3 or 4 times over.
Yeah, exactly. When they get fed up with the lack of response, things get a little testy. Yeah.
But if you can get it to work, and you can have her play the Ice Guys on Amazon Music, like I said, definitely try to give us a video that I think it's really cool that we're on that now finally.
Yeah, it is, absolutely. So make sure you check out the podcast whenever you can't watch the show live. We enjoy it for sure, and the podcast version again is there for whenever you can't watch the show live with us here daily on YouTube. All right, great stuff. Thanks to everyone for joining us on this Tuesday edition of the Ice Guys. For Alex P. Smith, I'm Ian Cameron. Have a great Tuesday night. Enjoy the games and good luck, and we will talk to you again tomorrow on Wednesday for another edition of the Ice Guys presented by National Hockey Now.